How's it going, guys? Welcome to Audio Addiction. We have an old favorite of mine, Vandalheart. You can say his name, what he does in the band.
My name's Alex. I play guitar and I sing in the band. I guess I'm like the kind of like the creator as well,
Sure, yeah. The
But
front man,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
the
yeah,
the muscle, you know. So
yeah,
I
yeah. We've become a lot more of like a cohesive band now, though. You know what
nice.
I mean? But yeah, my role is singing and playing guitar now. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
I got you. I got you. Well, always good to have Alex back on. I did check. The last time I had Alex on was 3 years ago, and we both
Yeah,
realized that has been too long of a time period. So we're back at it. We're doing it. Vandalheart hit the soft reset button on the band, and
yeah.
Alex hit me up and was like, "Yo, would you have me back on?" And low key, a little part of me was like, "What if I said no, just as like a joke?" And then I didn't. So because I feel like I don't want to come across as that guy, you know. So I hit up my man, and I was like, "Let's rock." And then he
Yeah,
did
yeah,
say that they have a new song out called Time. I'll also leave a link down below if you want to check out
yeah.
my reaction video to it. I gotta say, the new song, Chef's Kiss. If
Thank
you're
you,
about
dude.
it, whoo, you're in for a treat. So definitely go check that out if you haven't already. But Alex, I want to know what's been going on. As I mentioned before, the band kind of took a little bit of a break, a little pause.
Yeah, yeah.
So wanted to know, obviously a lot of bands went through what I call a spicy cough season, so I want to know, during that time, you did take a step away from it as well. Like, what type of lessons or things that you learned during that time period? Because I feel like a lot of bands felt this way about, making music, right? Like that's what's going
Yeah.
to happen, right? So did you kind of feel like that was what was going to be happening with Vandalheart? You're like, I don't know, man. I'm not feeling it
Well,
anymore. Or how did you
um,
kind of get through that, I guess?
yeah. I mean, to kind of give you like an abbreviated version of like what happened, I guess.
Sure.
The best way I can really explain it is like, like when we were talking before, I kind of said like the last album, the first album, right? Like, it went through a lot of like cycles almost. There
Sure.
was a lot of things that I personally went through, and like the band went through. Um, During that time. Like, we there was just a lot of different things that happened without getting too involved in like the
Sure.
business aspect of it. But it was supposed to come out years before, and then it ended up coming out years later.
Oh
um,
man.
I was really like really trying to do that full time
Sure. Yeah.
and everything. And it was just really discouraging, like things just not like you know it's almost like things were going to happen, but then it was like right as they were going to, it just didn't. Like, we actually got signed to a major during. Well, I shouldn't say we got signed. We were signing. We were going to sign
Sure.
basically,
Yeah.
and
The dotted lines were there. Yeah, I got you.
the offer was there. And like COVID happened.
Sure.
So, and then it was just like, it was almost like we never heard anything back, basically.
Sure. Sure. Sure.
For lack of better explanation. But
Sure. Sure.
so like that sucked, and I started making like my own solo music, which I still do. I go by 3 a.m., 3 in the morning. I do that. Um, so I started doing that, and I pursued that, and I got signed. And I pursued that for a while. Um, and I kind of put Vandalheart on the back burner, and so that was kind of why the break happened initially. But I needed
Mhm.
the break from the band, just like to kind of do new things and
Sure.
try to
Yeah.
branch off a little bit. um but um long story short, I did that, and I just like didn't want to be in a band anymore. I found it really uh I just found it to be like hard. It's hard, man.
Sure.
It's a
Yeah.
hard industry, like this kind of music and stuff like that. It is hard to be in a band, and like get everybody on the same page and stuff like that. So it was tough. So I did that, and then I had some stuff happen to me, personally, and I got real sick.
Oh,
I got in an accident. I lost my this eye doesn't work now. So you know, I lost my eye in an accident, and yeah, that like changed everything for me, man. Like I just like took a year long break, over a year, from social media, like fully just had to get off, you know, like everything was just kind of like making me uneasy,
sure,
you
yeah.
know.
Oh,
And I just needed to focus on myself, and then I got sick after that. So I mean, it was a tough time. But then I started to feel better, and you know, I kind of got myself together again. And I wrote probably like 14, 15 songs, something like that. And uh, they were all kind of like different. And I just basically, you know, had this like vision of what I wanted it to sound like. And like I took one and just kind of built off of that. And that's kind of how we came back. And, you know, we're a whole new band except for Justin, the guitar player. He was previously in the band. Um, and all the rest of the guys are new. So,
that's awesome, and obviously, you know, my condolences. I mean, that's such a
oh, yeah, man. Yeah, I'm
terrible
good. I'm
thing.
good.
Like, you know,
I'm happy to be alive, you know. So,
I have the tendency to feel like secondhand guilt in some ways. So like that whole time you were telling the story, I was like, oh my god, I can't. Like
yeah,
that,
yeah, yeah.
my buddy Alex can't do that. That's like that
Right,
hurts,
right.
you know. And
Yeah,
but I'm glad that you found, you know, I'm glad you refound the motivation or the drive to like want to
yeah,
make music, because I feel like
yeah,
oftentimes, especially, you know, during COVID, like I feel like a lot of people's energy or like their ability to create was just like squashed, you know,
yeah, yeah.
and so I'm
Get it.
glad
Yeah,
that you were able to, you know, able to kind of figure out what you want to do. And obviously, you know, I'm sure those traumatic experiences may have kind of been like, hey, listen, I only get to do this shit once, you know, like let
right.
me try to
Yeah,
go out and
exactly.
live it the way I
Exactly.
want to live it. You know, in terms of the project itself, like, you know, I feel like I had the opportunity to listen to Time, and there was just some really cool aspects of the song that I obviously was really stoked to have you on to talk about, because
Yeah,
in the verses, those songs, like the song has almost like a sort of like rap ish sort of part.
yeah,
Like there's a
yeah,
lot
yeah,
like more of a faster
yeah,
cadence to it. And I know that you do like a lot of like either co-producing or like, you know, musicality in that aspect of things. You do like a lot
yeah,
of like co-producing and stuff. And I was like, I wonder if that sort of like musicality is going to show up more in the future of what you're going to be writing with Vandalheart, because I think there
yeah,
was this really interesting like crossover of like, okay, I know he produces like a lot of like rap and like the trap sort of stuff, and I was like, I'm curious if that sort of
yeah,
identity and the way that you kind of create in that sort of aspect will inherently make its way over to Vandalheart stuff. And so that to
yeah,
me was the kind of the most surprising factor of that song, not for the
yeah,
sheer fact that like the beginning part was like super heavy and I was like, is he
yeah,
going like really heavy? Like
yeah.
that's kind of
Well,
crazy, you know?
yeah, like without giving too much information about like what the next couple songs and their singles are going to be like and stuff like that. Yeah, we definitely have evolved.
Sure,
The
agreed.
sound is very different. The sound is very different. It's a lot. It's just it's more me at
Yeah,
this
sure.
point. Like
Yeah.
it's for me personally and the band as well. Like you know, like especially Justin. Justin had, you know, he did he had a lot to do with a lot of this stuff too, especially the vision. But when I wrote that song, yeah, I just like I really wanted to do something like I just knew that I wanted to have like just like a hitter of a riff,
Sure, yeah.
and I did, and like it just kind of like I write kind of weird. I don't really like, I don't know, like I'll come up with one thing and then it's just like everything else just kind of rolls, you know. And so that was like one of those things. I was like, okay, I think I want to do it like a clean break here, and I think I'm gonna kind of just like do a little like choppy kind of like rappy type thing,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I think it turned out really good. That is probably one of my favorite parts, like out of any of the songs. But yeah, we definitely have gotten a lot heavier. There's some real pissed off songs for sure. Like there's a couple like real ass beaters for sure.
Oh yeah,
Um,
love that.
like for sure, which is crazy because this band was like not, you know, originally like that
Sure.
wasn't the vision. Like I really just wanted to do something like, you know, that had like a modern twist, but it was like poppy, you know, and
Sure.
listenable and stuff like that. But I think that, you know, we still do have that. There is another song that is would be considered like a radio single, and so there's a variety for sure. But yeah, like I do think that the me being a producer, and like making beats and and I mix and master. I also record. I work with a lot of different artists,
Sure,
especially
sure.
around here.
Yeah.
Um, and I do think that had a lot to do with it for sure. So
Yeah, it's cool to see that that's the crossover, right? Because I've been
yeah,
following kind of your journey within the different scopes of what you've been doing, and I was like, I wonder if that will ever wind up making its way over, and I'm glad that in a way you kind of let it in, you like
yeah, for
you
sure.
you
Yeah,
you wanted to be like, hey, if I'm going to create something different, if I'm going to try to do something different, I need to be able to kind of like diversify my sound and make it different. The kind of bands that I feel like you related me to, at least in the reaction video portion of time, I think the three bands that I thought of most instinctually are, I think you definitely remind me a little bit of Loathe. I would say Mood Ring is another one that's like coming up. I think you definitely remind me a lot of Mood Ring, and then just kind of a more off the wall pick, but I guess in the same sort of lane, like a Nothing Nowhere. I know he's gotten
okay,
a lot heavier.
yeah,
So I feel like those three bands collectively, those were the bands that I kind
yeah,
of related the new sound to, which is great because I love all three of those bands
yeah,
equally, and I think that you
yeah,
again blend that kind of ideology of like a little bit of shoegaze, some definitely like obviously
yeah, a little
heavy
bit, yeah,
riffs, and
for
then
sure.
also like a little bit of like emo trap kind of stuff that I was like, oh,
Yeah,
okay, that's interesting to hear. And I think it makes me more excited to listen to newer Vandalheart stuff because I'm like, well, how far out is he going to go here, or how far out is he going
yeah,
to go here, like,
yeah,
and
yeah.
the
I do think it's a
diversity of
lot
it.
more for sure. Yeah, I get exactly what you're saying. I personally feel like it is a lot more interesting. Um, and the songs aren't. I just feel like they're a little bit more unpredictable. You know what I mean?
Sure,
And
yeah.
like my thing is too. Like I don't really, and this is like not because of like. I mean, I don't really listen to a lot of music anymore,
Sure, yeah.
and I don't know if it's because like I don't enjoy it like how I used to and stuff. Like, but I'm like a radio listener now. Like, I hop in the
Hmm.
car and like, I'm listening to the radio, and like occasionally I'll hear stuff that I'm like, oh, I really like that. And I think that's really helped me like develop a sound. You know what I mean?
I
Like
would
for
agree,
this,
yeah.
just because like there's never really anything that I'm like really listening to on repeat or anything like that. The like general consensus that I feel like I've gotten like from people messaging me or talking to me about it. Everybody says that it's got like a real like Deftonesy vibe,
Yeah, I would
and
agree.
that like I respect that because like out of I'd say that that's like the top three like influential band for me just in general because they've just always been one of my favorite bands. But I actually got into them like way later in my life. I didn't really like them until you know
More
probably I
recently,
was like
yeah.
maybe like 23 or 24 or something like that. So, um, yeah, I mean, so yeah, I could definitely see it having like a Deftones type of vibe or whatever. But I also can see what you're talking about too. Um, it's just like I said, it's a lot darker. The theme is
Yeah, yeah,
just
yeah.
it's darker. It's like pissed off. It's it's like and it's a little more conceptual too. You know what I mean? Like the
Sure.
the song Time, um, the album will be called Gray,
Oh, nice,
um,
okay.
but the concept is pretty much like just like almost like time just being like an endless loop, like being
Sure.
stuck in gray, basically. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what that song is about, and really the album too. So
Yeah, and how and in terms of that process, like, in coming up with, the thought process of, like, "Okay, let me see what I can do," what am I w musically, you're like, okay, I kind of have a vision of what I want to do or how I want the thing to
yeah,
go. In terms of the like concept of the record, what was kind of your thought process behind, obviously naming it the Gray, but as well as that like kind of putting those pieces together? Was that something like pretty instinctual where you're like, okay, like I need to do this or this, I feel like this is going to work out, or was it something that you kind of mulled over a little bit more and just thought about a little bit more and were like, okay, maybe it might be this or like it might be
Yeah.
this, but then you ultimately landed on the gray?
So the way I came up with that was just um, like what I was dealing with had a lot to do with it, like in my life at the
Sure.
time.
Yeah.
And I was just like, you know, I'm just like, like when you kind of have like that, like existential, like even like, you look in the moment or you're in the mirror and you're like, in the moment, you're like, whoa, like, I'm alive. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
And like I've had a lot, like I had a lot of those, where I was just looking in the mirror and being like, wow, I'm alive. But I would be like, well, what if I'm not soon? You know what I mean? Or
Sure.
so,
Yeah.
something like that. And I was just like, I was almost like obsessed with like, like I don't want to say obsessed, but like I just thought about it all the time,
Sure.
like what happens now, like what happens next, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Am I,
Yeah.
or just like, do we, is it just like you exist in this gray, like in this just nothing, or you know what I mean? And like
Yeah.
that's something that I struggled with, and I just felt like that was something that I really wanted to write about, and so that's kind of how I came up with it. I just like this, will I live in the gray, when
Sure.
the
Yeah.
light leaves my eyes, was like the main, this like line that I just kept like hearing or something like that, so, and that is a line in one of the songs, so.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like I can definitely relate to that. You know, I think
Yeah.
it's I think it's like that fog that you feel in your mind where you're like, how much longer am I gonna live for? Right? Like,
Well, yeah, and
you
it's
know,
crazy like when you have like excuse me, like a life changing experience, or
sure,
like you get life
yeah,
changing news, and you're like, man, I don't know how much longer this is going to be,
sure, yeah,
so it really changes then, and you have to, adapt. And I had so many moments where I was just like, and I'm not the type of person where like, and that was another reason, like, I wasn't on social media, was like, I'm not the type of person where like, you're not really going to know a lot about me, you
sure,
know
yeah, yeah.
and I think that's important, like, and it's healthy,
I would agree.
for me anyways, so I didn't want to feel like um tempted to like vent there or anything
Sure,
like that,
I
and
got
like
you.
let people know, because I didn't want anybody to feel bad for me, I
Sure,
don't
sure,
I
sure.
don't like that. Everybody has their own shit to deal with, so um yeah, that's just kind of how I dealt with it. I was always thinking about it, and really like writing this music is like a staple of like what got me through a lot of it, and I'm like, I'm healthy now and I'm good, and
Sure, sure,
I
sure.
feel like, I feel like myself again, and this writing this music had a lot to do with that, so
I think it's very therapeutic. Like basically the way
for
you're
sure.
talking about it, it's like and I can definitely agree with, being on social media doing this, right? Like my life is doing this, right? And
For
so
sure, yeah,
and
exactly, right.
and so like people ask me all the time like, if you didn't have the channel, would you be on social media? And my answer is inherently no, I probably would
Yeah,
not,
same, literally same, literally, right.
because I think it's like I love social media. Like I think if anything, if it there would be any like media social media I would have if I were to have any, it'd probably be like Instagram where I'd take photos of like my life
Right,
in that
right.
moment. Like,
Yeah,
or
it'd
like
be Twitter for me just because of sports.
sure, yeah,
So I get, right.
I got
I
you, I
get it.
got you, respect, but I
Yeah.
think it's like those moments that you think about and you're like, oftentimes
One second.
for me, it's like though the like I think you think about the most impactful moments of your life, right? And when you're in
Yeah,
those like tough spots, right? When
for sure, man, for sure.
more recently, like I don't talk about it a lot. I haven't talked a lot about it on here on the channel, but like I lost my grandmother recently, and so
I'm
like
really
for
sorry.
thank you, I appreciate it. I feel like for me it was like a tough experience to deal with, like, and so
Yeah,
I can kind of live through you in that way where like I saw my grandmother, right? And every time I saw my grandmother, it was like looking through a glass, and you're
yeah,
like, wow, how much like I know that at some point if I'm healthy enough, I'm going to be at that same age, right? And then like am I going to look back at my life and be like have I fulfilled it or how have I lived it the way that I've wanted it to live, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah,
And so, you know, when you're talking about like that gray, it's like you're sitting in that moment thinking about like shit, like am I really like it gives you that opportunity where like you can either go down a very dark path, right? Or you can think about it and like, wow, okay, I only have this finite amount of time to live.
yeah,
Why
right.
would I fucking take any sort of moment for granted? You know, like that's why I think
Yeah,
for
I
me,
learned that for sure. I
yeah, I
definitely learned that.
think, and I'm sure for you, you know, going through an accident, I feel like that is even more so like a wake up call to be like, if this is something I want to do or this is something I care about, like I need to be able to invest the time to do it or
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
find a means for it to fit in my life. And so, you know, I feel that a lot with like what you're doing and like I felt a lot of emotion with time. Like there was I was sitting back and listening to it and I went back and listened to it after I'd done the reaction video just for a second time, second go around, and I was like, there's a lot of meaning in here that I would hope to like delve into a little bit more, but
Hmm.
I was just like, the whole concept of time is very interesting to me. Like, you know, in that sort of space of like how much time, you know, how many things in your life can you do that you enjoy, right? And so that's kind
Right,
of
right,
been
right.
that's kind of been my like motivation over the past couple years is just to be like, okay,
Yeah,
I
me
love
too.
doing this. I
Speaking of,
love doing this. Like, how can I continue to love to do this, right? And I have
right,
to
yeah,
find ways to enjoy doing it. And that's not to say I don't love interviewing bands. I'm always going to do that, but I think it's like being able to like constantly enjoy living life, like, and I think that,
yeah, yeah.
you know, I think
That's
that that was what I
it's
pulled from
harder
it.
than it's harder than
It
it
is.
seems
Oh, yeah,
for sure. It's harder than it seems. And you know, to touch on real quick too, the you know losing a grandparent. That song I sent. So I you know if everything happens for a reason, you know,
Sure, yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
the song I sent you is called "Bereave,"
Uh-huh.
and it is literally about that.
Oh,
About
wow.
grand or somebody who, well, yeah, I guess you could take it however you want, but
Sure, yeah.
uh,
A
for
close
me, a grand,
relative, yeah.
yeah, close relative. And you know, so I'm glad that I sent you that song because obviously it's not out yet, but you know, I think you'll like it, especially lyrically. And then you know, moving on with like the lyrics with time, like to touch on what you said, like the hook is, you know, what's left but time in
Sure.
today, right?
Yeah.
And you know, in that break, I say, not looking for anyone's sympathy, just want better days. I know
Sure,
that I
yeah.
don't belong. I, you know what I mean? So, and I'll never find a place screaming at the top of my lungs till I'm blue in the face, right? So that to me is literally what you know what you just said. You know, and it's like I felt like I was saying that stuff to myself all the time until I was just blue in the face. Like, but I had to remember like what's left but today, and
Sure,
like
yeah. Yeah.
today and time, right? And that's all you have. Like, so you know, it's like it's great to look towards the future and everything like that. But I've just learned like, you know, you really have to take every day for what it is because you know, like tomorrow really is not guaranteed.
Oh,
So
big facts, yeah.
and like that really like changed the way that I live my life, you know, and like changed the way that I think about things and I even treat people, you know, like I
Sure, yeah.
just everything, you know, and so I think it's really important, and you know, having a song that touches on that is like it's endearing for me, you know.
Sure, yeah,
So
and I think I would hope that a lot of people pull out that connection, right? Like, I think
yeah,
that's
for
what's
sure.
the most endearing quality about the music that we're a part of, right? I think that there is that level of like finding you know meaning or like understanding in making music, right? I think that's
Yeah,
what kind of brings us all together in that way of like I love doing this and or I like being able to kind of talk about difficult things and having that sort of ideology passed off to someone else. Like, and I hope that this song makes a positive impact on other people, right? Like, I think that's the
for sure,
ultimate goal of artists is to have
100%.
that impact. And, you know, I can really resonate with this song particularly, and I'm sure a lot of the other songs are going to be resonating with me a lot because I
Yeah, yeah,
think, you know, I think everybody experienced those dark moments in their lives,
yeah,
but I don't think that those moments should define you, and you have to have people
Right.
around you that care about you in that way to like facilitate that positive energy. That doesn't necessarily
Yeah,
mean
yeah,
that
yeah.
every day is going to be great, but you would hope
Right.
like
Yeah.
you try to hope and you want the best for each day. That's what kind of my
Yeah, for sure.
ideologies.
And, like I haven't had like the easiest life and like or career, like it's been it's been up and down for me.
Sure.
I've had
Yeah.
a lot of highs and I've had a lot of lows, and it's hard to keep that in mind. But I think that I think what you're saying, what you're saying holds a lot of weight. You know what I mean, to
Oh, I
me anyway.
appreciate it.
So um so yeah, I fully agree with you.
There we go. Well, the next question I have for you, Alex, we got real deep, and when you have
Mhm.
people on for the second time, that's when you ask the
The
real
real one.
personal, the real questions. Yeah, that's when the gloves are off. That's when the
Right.
gloves go
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
But I gotta
Yeah.
ask, in regards to listening to more like radio music,
Uh-huh.
that's an interesting thought process because recently I've been listening to a lot more like pop music. I've been listening to a lot more music
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I would say since the last time I had you on, I think I've become a little bit more well versed in the different genres now. Um,
For sure.
how important is it for you to kind of cross over and do different things? Like, because I think, as artists, you're just like, oh man, like, you either get the feast or famine. Like, people are like, oh wow, I can't believe they wrote the
For
same
sure.
song. Or then they have the other
Right. Well,
phrase.
I've always been, yeah, not, yeah, not to cut you off.
No, no, you're good.
So I've always been very like over the top about trying to create something that nobody else is doing. And I think that was like a mistake because, I think you box yourself in big time when you do that. So I don't really think about at all like trying to, you know, make it well. Obviously I want it to be unique and I want it to be different. I want it to be its own thing, and I think that it is now. I don't think that it was before. And I did before, you know what I mean.
Sure,
and
sure, sure.
and and I think that um a lot of like like kind of like what I was gonna touch on earlier, like a lot of like jadedness and stuff like that because of the highs and the lows and all that. I think I let a lot of that get to me. And it just it like skewed a lot of like my thinking, you know what I
Sure,
mean.
sure,
So
sure.
I was just constantly trying to create something that I felt was like better, or like just like it unique,
Sure,
and
yeah.
like I just was caught up in that, so caught up in that. And now how I write is I write stuff that I enjoy, me,
Sure,
right?
yeah. Oh
Just
yeah.
like, and then I send it to the band, and the whole, I'm like, if the band's like, oh yeah, we like it, then it's good.
You move
So
forward,
that's
yeah.
really that. Yeah, that's really where it is now. Like there's I don't have even like that isn't even part of my thought process at all anymore. So it's literally just I'm trying to write something that I enjoy at this point. So, and that's really where it all came from. Like, but I do think that it does have like elements of like modern pop music
Sure,
still,
I would
like the
agree.
hooks. Like I just think that's a given just because that is kind of how I think and write. Like I write very like traditional, like 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 intro verse chorus kind of
Sure,
kind of
yeah,
thing. And
yeah,
like
yeah.
there's not, I don't really like to switch it up too much. Like there is a little bit of progressive nature to some of the songs, but you know I do think that there are some like modern like pop elements, radio elements, stuff like that I do implement. But I don't think I'm like going out of my way to try and like get that stuff in there, like cramming it in there or
Sure, sure,
anything.
yeah.
So
I
yeah.
feel like if anything, like you pull a lot from the modern pop space in the sense of like you want it to be like hooky, like you want the
Yeah,
song to really
exactly.
reel you in.
I always feel like that's where you would hear that in songs that I write. It's definitely like the hooks for
Yeah.
sure.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I always feel like the hook has to be good. Like it has to be like it has to catch you. That's why it's called the hook. It's hooking you. So
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
I think even in the chorus, right? Like I think
yeah,
everything like melodically kind of like bows out to the vocals. Like it almost
Yeah,
like it's almost
yeah,
intentional where like again that big swell of the intro and then like you get through the verses and then the chorus is also large, but I think that
yeah,
the instrumentation is almost set back in a way where it's like okay,
yeah,
it's not like
for
low in
sure.
the mix or anything. It just hits super well, but then the like actual like melodies, like the vocal lines really like in my head I was like wow, this is really like hooking me in that way, and then it
Yeah,
kind
yeah,
of made me more interested to hear like how the rest of the song was going to go because it
yeah,
was just so in your face and like in that sort of way. So I would definitely
yeah,
say you pull a lot from that sort of pop like
for sure.
avenue of music because of those like melodic hooks, and then as
Yeah,
well as that the instrumentation to kind of just like just nudge it a little bit more forward so you're like okay, I get
yeah,
it, you know.
right, for sure. Yeah.
I get it, but that's awesome. The next question I have for you, Alex, is you know, in terms of what you can delve into in regards to the album, like I know you kind of talked about it a little bit earlier in regards to sound, but you know, what is kind of the experience you want listeners to kind of experience going through the album? I don't know if you have kind of a set release date on when, you know, things are going to be
Yeah,
down the
yeah,
pipeline, but you know, what can kind of people expect going into Vandalheart going further? Cuz like like as I said before, it feels like there's a leaf change. You know, I think there's just a lot of things going on in the camp right now that I'm really
mhm,
stoked on, and I'm just
yeah,
curious where you want people's headspace to be in regards to, you know, what you guys are going to be
yeah,
releasing going further.
yeah. So okay, so like what I can say basically is like so like everything is in the clip, right? Like
Mhm.
everything's ready to go. But like the thing is like I said with like writing it, right? Like I'm trying to just enjoy writing it. And like or enjoy you know, enjoy writing it obviously, but like I'm writing things that like I enjoy. And like
Sure. Yeah.
my hope is that everyone else also enjoys it. But the thing is like, you know, I just want to do it organically, you
Sure.
know,
Yeah.
and just kind of like I'm not really worried about like the success aspect of it anymore. And I used to be so wrapped up in that, you know, and it was like I would spend my last dollar to try and figure that out, you know what I mean? And I'm just not at that point anymore. I just like it's like, you know what, if people like it, they like it, and if it
Sure.
does well, it does well. If it doesn't, then you know whatever, it's out, and I'm happy that it's out, right? So that's where I'm at with that. But we are going to drop probably, I would say, three more singles before we
Mm.
drop the album. It's
Okay.
probably going to be like man, I don't know, probably 10 songs. I'm not sure though. Like, you know, like I know that's like not really something that happens anymore, like
Sure.
release
Yeah.
stuff and singles and EPs, but like every song just it's too cohesive to like, you know, maybe I'll do a part one and two. I'm not really sure how that's going to go, but I do know that we're going to drop four to five singles. Um, and you know maybe that'll be the album and we just drop them or the EP. So I mean there's really not I don't have a set plan, you know,
Sure. Sure. Sure.
but singles are definitely what we're going to be doing here. So you know we
Yeah.
got another video that's going to come out for the next song. The next song is a lot more radio-y, and it's probably one of my favorite ones. And then we've got we've got a couple like really pissed off ones that we're going to drop, and like and I really think that those are gonna surprise some people just because like you know I was in heavy bands and like you know I do enjoy that
Sure.
music.
Yeah.
I enjoy writing it and playing it, especially live. But you know I didn't realize how much I missed it, like doing you know 3 in the morning and like performing it as such. You know, like live is such a different thing. It's like
Oh
you're just
yeah.
up there, you're up there by yourself with a DJ. The energy is so different, you know, and like playing that pissed off like heavy music, it really is just like live is just it's a different it's no it's like nothing, it's a drug, you know, it's like
Yeah.
nothing
Sure.
you've
Yeah.
ever experienced, even when there's nobody there, like or even you know what I mean, like and I never realized that until experiencing the other side.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
you know, so yeah, you know,
I would agree with that 100%. Like I've gone to see like pop bands, I've gone to see heavier bands, and I feel
yeah,
like the energy of seeing like a pop band like is not, you can't really equate it to seeing like a metal band. And
no,
I would
no, no,
highly recommend if you're on the pop side of things, I would recommend going to a metal show. Like the
for
only
sure,
thing I
yeah,
can
yeah,
kind of equate it to is like even some levels of rap, I feel like have that sort of like metal energy, and
For
that's
sure.
tough. That's, I mean, for be having one or like kind of a group of people up on stage, like you got to have other people that hype you up. And I feel like a
Yeah.
band
Yeah.
is like the perfect equivalent to that. And it's just like,
For sure.
and you can't I will highly doubt the energy is unmatched, you know?
Yeah.
I will fight anyone in the comments to tell me that's not the
Yeah.
case, you know? But, like, I feel like most people know that because 'cause they're
Yeah.
watching this
Yeah.
channel,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, I think that for me, it's like exciting to see that I feel like it's almost like you unlock something. Like it's like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
that like super OP power in like a video game. Like that's how I feel like the music you're writing right now is just
Yeah. You
like
hit max level
you
and you're
hit max
strong. You
level
know
and
what I
you're
mean?
like
Yeah.
going to the first town and you're just
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
whooping ass, you know, like
Yeah. Right.
I feel
Right.
like that's how it is. Like and it's I gotta say, like listening to kind of some older Vandalheart stuff and just kind of tracking it down, like I was like I in rewatching kind of like a little bit of clips of the interview we did, I was just like, there's
Mhm.
just a different energy about what you're doing now, and like
For
I'm so
sure.
stoked
It's
that
so
time
different. So
is
different.
just like is doing well. You know,
Yeah, man. I appreciate that.
I'm excited to share my reaction video, so
Yeah, I'm
I'll have
excited
to
to see it.
drop the
I
I'll
haven't
drop you
even
the
seen
link.
it yet.
I'll drop you the link. I'll drop you the link.
Yeah, cool, cool.
But I'm really excited, and I think that I hope people you know get that sort of ideology or at least check out what you do because I
For
think
sure.
it was super fresh at least to me, and I hope that you know if you like this interview, definitely go check out Vandalheart.
Yeah,
Links in the
yeah.
description. But um, I'm also like well on the same side of you about like singles versus albums. I'm old, like I'm 30, like
Yeah, dude.
I love albums.
29,
You
so
know what I mean? We're the
yeah.
same age, you know, like I'm all about albums, man.
Mhm.
I grew up listening to albums. I
Something
grew
about
up
just playing an album, you know? There's
oh,
something
front to
about
back,
it.
oh,
Yeah,
like
there's something
unmatched
about it.
energy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think I think also as well too, like I love how bands put together albums. You know, I think there's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
a true art to putting songs next to each other. Like
yeah.
there's just a true mastery of like trying to figure out like, okay, well, this song's here. Like, what are we gonna put after this one? And like, how are we gonna arrange it out? I just love that. That to me is like one of the coolest things. So again,
Yeah, yeah.
I might sound like a little bit of a boomer saying that, but I don't really care. I love albums.
Yeah,
Come
whatever. We're
find me.
boomers,
We're
man.
boomers now,
We're boomers.
but I
Yeah,
love
call me a
that.
boomer, fine. I don't
It's all good. It's all good. You
care.
know, the vibes are sufficient over here. But
Yeah.
the next question I have for you, Alex, is what is your Mount Rushmore of bands? Like, what are some four acts that are like very crucial to your musicality, like the way that
Okay.
you've kind of you know gone about music? Like, very. If you didn't have these bands, the sound you're making now might not have existed.
Okay. Here, can I grab, can we pause and
Yeah,
let me grab a charger real quick? 'Cause I
all
got
good.
3% real quick. Just give me 1 second.
All good, brother.
Yeah, sorry. God damn it. So I think so this has definitely changed for me throughout my life, like because like Maroon 5 used to be like, my band,
Sure. Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
and I always like, like they made me want to be in like a pop band, and like make something different, because like when that came out, nobody heard nothing like that, like,
Yeah.
and people don't understand like how different and good that is. Like, whatever, you can hate or whatever, and not like it, but it's such a unique sound, and it's so, man, like that first album, is just so, to me, so good. It's like it's perfect, and that's always been really influential to me. But I don't think so as much now, so it's
Sure.
hard to put that out there. As far as like the things that I'm writing, but that will always be like huge for me. Like when I like actually seriously listened to that album and like enjoyed it for like the first fucking time. You know what I mean? Like that was an experience. So I don't know if I can really put them there, but um Deftones for sure.
Oh
Um
yeah.
I would have to put that, them in the equation, just because like, there's just something about like the the simplicity. And I really think like when you really get down to it, like, so Time, right? Time is such a simple song. Like
Sure.
it's not there's really not a lot going on. There's like, you know, one thing I can say is like I'm obsessed with noise. Okay.
Mhm.
And what I mean by noise is like noise, like just shit that's not music that you make music,
Sure,
right? So
yeah.
there's like this droning noise in there that is literally a blender that I tuned to the key of the song, and it's just going, and then it changes, like, right.
Wow.
So like that, I feel like I don't know if really like Deftones is like where, like, you know what I mean, like where
Yeah,
that
yeah,
came
yeah.
from. But like Deftones definitely, as far as like, you know, melodies go, you know what I mean, like I
Oh,
love how
yeah.
they can just like bust right into like some incredibly like dreamy, like beautiful sounding melody from like, you know, a riff, and usually the riff is like pretty simple, you know what I mean. And I do feel like the riff in Time is well, I mean that's pretty technical, but like it's simple enough, you know what I mean.
Sure, yeah, yeah.
It's a riff, it kind of repeats a couple times, it kind of changes, it goes back, like, you know what I mean. And so I could see that being like pretty Deftonesy. But I would say Deftones. And then really to go any further is hard, just because, you know, like I can't really think of any other bands that I really like truly listen to. But I mean, like my bands are like, you know, Maroon 5, there's Counting Crows,
Ooh,
like,
interesting.
and I really mean that. Like, that first Counting Crows album to me is incredible. Like a lot of people are gonna, you know, be like, whatever, Hootie and the Blowfish is better or some shit like that or whatever, you know. But you know, those are really huge to me. And I think that writing, like, if I had to say for just like the Vandalheart stuff, I would say Deftones. I would say, you know, I've always really loved Bring Me the Horizon. I
Yeah.
haven't really listened to them in a long time. I haven't even heard their new music. I can honestly say that. But that what's the album with the umbrella and all that?
Oh, that's the spirit. You got it.
That's the Spirit. That's one of my favorite albums ever. And I just I feel like that. You know, I kind of get a little bit of that vibe from it a bit. You know.
Agreed. Yeah.
Um, and then honestly maybe even like and I think like if I had to pick like a real third for the Vandalheart stuff, I would say like Limp Bizkit, to be
Ooh.
honest with you, just because like dude, like in some of these songs, like the riffs are so like just pissed off, and like they hit so hard. And like I had to find a way to like to balance like I wanted to keep Vandalheart poppy and like in a way poppy, but like darker, you know,
Yeah.
and just more me as mature me, you know, and the band too, you know, you know, especially like Justin, like, you know, me and Justin are pretty similar, like as
Sure.
far as that goes. And you know, he loves riffs, I love riffs. We wanted to play pissed off shit, and I think a lot of that had to do with it. So um, yeah, I mean, like, dude, like Limp Bizkit for sure. So yeah, I would say, yeah. So if I had to pick, right, I'd say Deftones, Limp Bizkit, and probably that Bring Me the Horizon of that's the Spirit album, I would say,
Yeah,
if I
I
had to
think
pick.
I would say you pretty I would say that's a pretty good indicator. You know, I think there's a lot of variance between the artists that you picked,
Hmm.
but also at the same point, I think there's a lot of things that bind them all together, right? Like I think there is some. And now listing those, I feel like it definitely gives me a little bit more of a perspective on Time.
Yeah,
You know, because I think there is like some, as I mentioned earlier, you know, I feel like both Loath and Mood Ring are were also influenced by Deftones, so I feel like that's kind of like
yeah,
again, I get
okay,
that sound certainly. The Bring Me the Horizon thing, like now I get it. Like I didn't hear it
yeah,
originally, but now that I'm listening, like internalizing and
yeah,
listening to it,
yeah.
I'm like, okay, now I can hear that.
Yeah, because like I honestly I can say like I wasn't really thinking that either, just because, you know, like so like I've always like when I was talking about like Maroon 5, Counting Crows, that kind of thing. You know, I was a little stumped for a sec, just because I'm like, man, I can't really think like of what really like influenced me. But if I really had to, like I'm saying, like if I really had to pick, right, um when I got to kind of just like processing it a little more, like there's some songs on that's the Spirit album where like they're similar to like time, it's like, it starts off kind of like whatever, pissed off kind of shit, whatever. I mean, and really that song doesn't even, it's not super pissed because like, I'm not like screaming or anything
Sure,
in
yeah, yeah.
the song at all. Like it's all singing,
Yeah.
but like you'll be kind of like grooving on a riff and you're
Yeah, oh
liking it,
yeah.
and then boom, it's like this real like kind of nice little chorus or whatever, you know what I mean? Pre-chorus, chorus, bridge, that kind of thing.
Sure, yeah.
And you're like, oh, okay. So I can definitely see how that like maybe it did influence a little bit of like the things that I wrote.
Yeah, I think it's more so like you can tell you can tell like where the influences draw from. Like I think it's like
Yeah,
you can instinctually like I think about that and I'm like, okay, this feels very like, I didn't even put it together like in that way until just now
yeah.
in this
It took me
moment.
a sec too, even, you know what I mean?
Because I was
I
like,
wrote
"Oh,
it, bro.
this is a big
Yeah,
riff, like, I like
yeah,
this," it's
yeah.
like the mantra riff, like, that riff, I was like,
Right.
"Okay,"
Yeah.
like, I can kind of correlate that to time and, like, that being a big riff to start off, but then, like, the chorus is, like, equally as big, but, like, more so in a melodic way. I think the interesting things that you pull, like riff wise, you're like, okay, this feels like very Bring Me the Horizon in terms of like big
Hmm.
riffs, and then like more of the melodic, like weird, like stuff going on in the background is like very
Hmm.
Deftonesy influence.
Yeah.
It has that sort of shoegaze sort of
Yeah.
feel that I'm like, okay, that's interesting, like that, and
Yeah.
kind of combine that with like your love of pop music, then you
Right.
throw all of that, metaphorically in a
Right.
blender,
Eh,
and you're like, okay,
Yeah.
this is it.
And to kind of add to like this isn't really a band, but I have this I have a friend that I met working at Guitar Center actually, and he's like, one of my, like, we're real close, so
Tight,
we
yeah, I got you.
ever saying like we clicked right away. And it's crazy because like we are kind of like polar opposites in so many different ways, but like he's shown me a lot of like stuff, like, okay, so if I've sent him hundreds of songs, and usually he's like, "This sucks. I hate it. I hate it." Well, stuff like that. So
Yeah,
we're
yeah, yeah,
really
yeah.
different. But it's almost like we've almost gotten to the point where I feel like if he says that, like it's good. You know what I mean? Like for
Yeah.
me. So, but he always will give me an honest opinion, and I respect that about him.
Sure,
But
yeah.
he showed me noise. He showed me noise, and I have this funny video of like when we worked at Guitar Center together, and he like came in, like he showed me this like noise project called Dark Mountain Transmitter, and it's not anyone's cup of tea. Like nobody, no one's gonna like it really. Like it's very acquired. There's a lot of different, there's a genre called noise, like there,
Yes, oh, I know,
harsh
yeah.
noise, noise wall, that kind of stuff. And like if you really sit there, I think it's for people who like drugs and shit or whatever, like listen to, and I mean, I'm just being honest, whatever.
No, sure, sure, sure.
But I could see like listening to that and like just zoning out, and somebody doing drugs and seeing shit or something. I don't know.
Sure, yeah, I don't know,
I'm
yeah.
not real big on that shit, so I don't know. But um, if you really like listen closely, you can hear things, like you hear things shifting and changing, and there's different layers to it, and it sounds like shit usually, but there's like a, to me, it's like there's something about it, right? So we had this like joke thing that we kind of did, like we're like, let's start a noise project. So we did, and like we were doing stuff like just like dumb shit, like fully just drink a couple beers, whatever, and he'd come over and we record, and we're like banging pots and pans and just like making all this whatever, all this noise, and like we're just like putting all these different effects on and just like kind of figuring it out, and like
Oh my
some of the
god.
songs, like like it was a joke to us at first, but then
Sure, yeah.
but I was like, man, you know what? Noise is fucking sick, just because like think about like implementing some of that stuff into your music, and there's a lot of it in this Vandalheart stuff. Like there's a lot of like droning like noise that you know that it ended up being like music, you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so things like that you just wouldn't expect, like almost like it's TV static, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it's like it's a note, it's hitting a note and it's carrying the tune in a certain way, like, and like it's like it's almost like you don't really notice it, but if you take it away, you do. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
it's like a textural element, I
yeah,
like that,
so So I would say that like my friend Mike had a lot to do with the sound, and not even really on accident or on purpose. It was like kind of on accident, you know what I
Sure,
mean? And
yeah.
I don't even think I've really even like told him that, you know. So I'll send this to him.
He's gonna be like, "What the fuck? What is
Yeah,
Alex talking about?"
yeah. But you
He's
know, shout out Mike Rinks, man. He's a hell of a guy and a hell of a musician too.
shout outs to
So
Mike. Yeah,
yeah,
that's otherwise you wouldn't have heard the blender being tuned up and down in the Vandalheart
that's
stuff.
literally what
So
it
now you
is. It
know.
is
The
in
more
that
you know.
song. That's what it is. It's a blender tuned to the key of the
Whew.
song, like just oscillating notes, like
Oh my
literally. So yeah.
wild shit, wild shit. I love that. But the last question I have for you, Alex, my personal favorite. I've been asking this a lot post COVID. Obviously, I love interviewing bands. I feel like it's pretty evident to most people I have here on the show. But I wanted to ask, going through the traumatic experiences that you've gone through and to ultimately be like I want to make music again, like I found this
Mhm.
revitalization to make music and do that. What kind of reinvigorated your passion to write and make music under Vandalheart? Because very easily you could have just been like, no, I'm putting this to rest, it's not going to happen anymore, like I'm done.
Yeah, and
you know
I did actually, I did do that. Like I was ready to be done with it, and especially around the time I started doing, 3 in the morning,
hmm
and I got signed and stuff, and I was just like, yeah, I'm never doing that shit again. Like, like, it wasn't because like I hated Vandalheart. I loved Vandalheart. Like Vandalheart is like my baby.
sure,
It's like
yeah,
it's my project that I created. Like, and it was supposed to go a certain way, and it didn't, and that was hard for me to stomach.
sure, yeah,
And it was hard for the like the band used to be different guys too, and I think it was hard for them. Like we went through a lot, um, as people and as a band, and I think that it originally was like, even to me, like almost like pitched as something different than what it ended up being.
sure, yeah,
So that was hard, and like us all falling out, that hurt me because I did really, I cared about those guys, and I wanted to be in a band with them, but I just like, I was in such a bad headspace. Like I couldn't be the leader,
sure,
that I needed to be, like, to make it work, and I just like, I lost a lot of love after that, and I didn't really want to be in a band anymore because I just felt like I just kept thinking like, man, am I the problem? Like, am I why, like, this stuff hasn't worked out or something like that? And, in a lot of ways, potentially, but um I just like, I couldn't keep going the way that it was. You know what
sure,
I mean? I just didn't feel like I had it in me to do a band anymore. You know what I mean?
yeah,
To be in a band. And so like, taking that time and doing my solo stuff, which I really enjoyed doing, right? I still enjoyed it. I do plan to release more stuff. Um, that break really like solidified me on, like I played a show with who was it? It was man, what was that guy's name? It was this, oh, Smoke Perp, right?
okay,
He came back and did a tour, and I was on one of his shows, right? So I played and it was fun, right? And I had that like really, and I had performed a few times as
am,
as
yeah,
that, right? Yeah. So, but this was like a little bit bigger of a crowd and that kind of
sure,
thing, you know what I mean? So I was like, yeah, I was excited, I was ready to do it. And then I played live, and I just didn't feel fulfilled like I felt like I should have. You know what I'm
sure,
saying?
yeah,
I felt like, I performed well. The guys that also performed with me, like features and stuff like that, they did well too. Everything was great, and it was a good day, it was a good night, everything. But it was just different. The vibe is different. The like everything is just different. So and that was like really, like the next day, I remember waking up and being like, maybe I would do this again. But then I didn't start writing anything like that
sure, yeah,
until probably, I would say, about 5 6 months ago. So this stuff
wow,
is
okay,
pretty fresh. Yeah. So about six maybe seven, like max 7 months ago. It's not even a year old. None of it is. So And I was just like, you know what, guys, like, I hit up a couple, I hit up Justin, and I was like, what do you think about,
Revamping
doing
it.
Vandalheart? Yeah. And he was like, I'm with it. And then, I got another friend that I used to work with at Guitar Center, who was also friends with Mike. So
Shout
his name's
outs.
Rick, and he's a bass player, and he's like in a big country band, and he does all sorts of stuff, and he's like incredible musician, one of my best friends.
South.
And I was like, I'm gonna ask him to do it, but I knew that he would like this stuff a lot, like way more than the other stuff. And so when I sent it to him, he was like, oh yeah, I'm into it. So asking him, and then the drummer of the first band that I was ever in, his name's Jordan. I was like, you know what, man? I know if I ask Jordan, he'll do it. And then but I didn't know, you know what I mean? And it was it was a blessing, like
Sure, yeah.
everybody was on board, everybody liked the vision. And like nobody had ever written anything for this band ever before, just me. And that wasn't like because I didn't want that, right? I just felt like that was my role. You know what I
Sure,
mean? And
yeah,
so
yeah.
I'd always just do it and whatever. And then Justin wrote an instrumental track and like just kind of sent it. Like he started recording and
Sure,
stuff.
yeah, yeah.
And and then so like, I helped him get set up and everything. And I'm thinking like, it's gonna take him a while, you know what I mean? And it like a couple days later, man, he sent me this awesome instrumental song, and it's like one of the like real chilled out songs on
Sure,
the
yeah.
album. It's almost like shoegazy a little bit, but it's real like reminiscent of like the first Vandalheart stuff. And he wrote all that. I just mixed it and recorded vocals and stuff, and so like it like all of that like coming together and shit like that. You know what I mean? That is what like really I was like, all right, I want to do this again. You know what I mean? And I don't like I said, I don't care about the success. I don't care about it like doing numbers. I don't care about making money. I don't care about people buying the merch. I don't care about any of that. Like I literally just want to write music that I enjoy and like play the music as well with people that also enjoy it,
Sure,
that
yeah.
I enjoy being around, and it's supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be fulfilling, and it never was before. You know what I mean? It was always like it felt like work. It felt like stress. It felt
Yeah,
shit
yeah.
all the time, and like it's just not like that anymore. You know what I mean? I literally cannot wait to play shows. I can't wait to like do stuff, do stuff again. And
Yeah.
and I think that those boundaries that I had like set for myself really is what like did it for me, like wanting to do it again. Like, all right, let's see if these guys are into it. If they're into it, let's see where it goes. And it just like, dude, it just came together, and things don't. I just feel like there's not a lot of stuff that happens that way
Sure,
in life
yeah.
for me, anyways. So it was just like a telltale sign. Like I knew then that I had to do it.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry that was long and everything,
No,
but
no.
I did like that's just it was important. That's important for me to
Sure.
get out. You know what I mean? So
No, I love that. I think if anything, it, like further surmises that that sort of stuff is kind of written in the stars a little bit. It has
yes,
that sort
yeah,
of fate quality.
hmm
And so for me, it's like I think just you talking about it, like I could tell you're just like reinvigorated to do it. And I think that that's
yeah.
kind of like a true tell or a true sign that like the project, at least from my perspective, is going to be good. Like I think that's kind of like the biggest selling point is like whenever I tell people like, everybody's like the cliche thing of like I don't listen to my band's music. No, you should fucking be listening to
Oh,
your
I
music
do,
and you should be loving your
I
music
do,
because if you love
I
your
do.
music, shit, that is the biggest selling point to me
Yeah,
because
man. Like the payoff for me is like I don't have a whole lot of fun writing the music. I'm
sure,
being
yeah,
honest. I don't.
yeah,
I that's like the part I fucking hate.
yeah,
I
well,
hate
yeah,
it. Like, like I especially like if I get stomped or something like that, and then I'm the type of person where like if I don't sit down and write the song all the way through, I don't go back to it
it just
because
stays
I
there,
know
and
it's bad. I know it's bad. I know it's bad.
it's new
There's
song
been maybe
24
like
still. I got
right.
you.
I mean, there's been maybe a couple exceptions where I might revisit the song and then like figure it out. Like that happens, right? But very rarely.
Sure, yeah.
So yeah, like yeah,
Yeah, I feel like
definitely,
if
definitely.
you're really truly enjoying the music you're putting out, then that to me is like as an interviewer, it's like I don't. I could say this song's dog shit, and you still love it. That's like,
Yeah, I mean,
hey,
for sure. It's
that's
just like how I said, like I'll send it to my one friend, my friend Mike, right? I'll send it to him, and every time he's like, "Yeah, this sucks," but
that's okay. Yeah.
occasionally he'll be like, "Oh, I like this part," I distinctly, not to say anything about this or whatever, but the one thing, it's funny that like you love the little like rappy part, right? He hated that, like he did not like that, so it's just super funny, but to
I'm the
me, it's
opposite of
so
Mike. That's
fulfilling.
what it's come
Yeah.
down to.
Oh yeah, maybe we did. Maybe if we do it in the next single or something like that, I'll have maybe Mike could come on or something like that. Would be so funny. But
I'm polar opposite Mike. I'm just like, yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
that part was sick, bro. You get
He's
the
just
both
on here
ends of the
like he
scale.
just
Mike will tell
man
you it's shitty. I'll tell you it's great. So
man
you'll
he
meet in the
would love
middle.
that too. I could just see him being on here just like, well, I think it sucks, but I'm glad that other people like like that's 100% his personality. But like what I can say is like 100% like I do listen to my music a lot, and I don't really show a whole lot of people my music though. Like like I'm weird about it. Like there's some people, obviously the band and like my friend Mike and a couple other people, whatever, our manager
Confidence.
Gino,
Yeah, sure, yeah.
and that's really it. But the payoff for me is like I said, I hate writing it, but at the end, and I'm listening to it, I'm like, man, you know what I mean? Like it's like the payoff of that that's like a drug to me. Like
Sure, yeah.
I am absolutely addicted to that, 100%. And like I will play a song that I like that I've written to the point where I just can't
It's
listen to it.
unbearable. Yeah, I got
Yeah,
you.
absolutely. And then, but that's good
Oh,
because
yeah.
then I have to write another one and more and more and more. So like that's my
It
process, and
feeds
it
it.
took me a long time to figure that out.
Oh,
So
100%. So yeah,
yeah,
listen, Alex is listening to Vandalheart stuff, so I feel like that should be your biggest selling point to go check it out, which is the perfect segue into the next point. Alex, tell people where they can find Vandalheart at, what you guys have coming up in the next couple months, and anything else you would like to plug about your band.
yeah. You can find Vandalheart anywhere. Facebook.com/Vandalheart, Instagram @Vandalheart, Twitter @Vandalheart. Um, yeah, obviously Spotify, Apple Music, all that stuff. You can find. Yeah, it's really not hard. There's only one Vandalheart, so uh, I am happy about that. But there's like 800 3 a.m. So you know
Oh,
what I mean. Like that's why I went. That's why I'm doing 3 in the morning now. But anyway. So yeah, you can find it anywhere. Like I hope that everybody likes it, man. Like I'm really enjoying it. I've watched the video probably 5 different times. Like this it's doing like better than I felt like it was, you know what I mean? And I just like I'm just grateful that people are still paying attention and
yeah.
listening, and that the band has fans. Like that's really really, it means a lot to me. And like I just can't wait to get the rest of the stuff out. Like this is a great starting point. But I think that the best is really yet to come. And I we don't really plan on like stopping or anything like that. Shows we do, I think we're going to be doing some stuff here in the fall. We're going to be we haven't even like practiced and stuff yet, but we're trying to, I mean, what I mean, we're all professional musicians.
Yeah,
I don't think
it'll
we're going to have
happen.
an, I mean, I didn't even practice with the bands that I used to tour with, not one single time ever. I just went on tour. So, I mean, and I'm not bragging or anything. I mean, that's just what we do. You know what I
Sure,
mean?
yeah.
So, I don't think we're going to have an issue or anything like that. But, like it's important to like, catch the vibe and all that stuff.
Yeah, the
So, I mean,
energy.
we've been putting off the shows for a minute, and I'm ready and I'm healthy, and I got my wind about me and stuff like that, so I can sing again. And I'm playing guitar now too and
Yes.
singing.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's a big change, but yeah, we're excited, and hopefully here, like we're thinking like I think September throughout the rest of the year we're going to be pretty booked up. So
There we go. I'd love to hear it. Listen, I love having Alex back on here. And listen, if
yeah,
you
man.
haven't checked out Vandalheart, now is the time. No pun intended. Go check out their new song Time. Links in the description. Go give it some love. There'll also be a link to the reaction video for Time as well. So go watch that if you feel so inclined. You get to see me one on one. The very moment I listen to this song, you'll be able to you'll be able to tell. I think I really enjoyed it, so I hope you guys are gonna love it. If not, go give a follow to Vandalheart. Links below. Go pick up some merch. I'm sure they have some. So if you want to support them and you want to see them come hit your city, your area, wherever, that's the best way to go do it. And also follow them on Spotify so you don't miss out when they drop a new song. That's the best way to do it. So please go do that. If you enjoyed this, I was gonna say reaction video, but this is not a reaction
Man, what
video.
are you doing?
Woo! Flying off the handle, man.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
go, if you enjoyed this interview, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. I am having a goal of hitting 5K before the year is over with in terms of subs. I'm about
He
a
deserves it, man.
little
Give
over
it to him.
halfway there. So if you
Give
could
it to
help,
him.
please, that
Yeah.
would be amazing. I think I would cry at the end of the year if that happens. So please, if you could do that, that'd be awesome. And again, huge thanks to Alex of Vandalheart for coming on tonight.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you having me.